Hi, welcome to this 8-part series on employment law for managers and supervisors. This series focuses on real-world situations managers face every day: hiring, pay decisions, performance issues, and more, and where those moments can turn into legal risk if they're not handled properly. HR professionals already live in this space. Managers don't, and they shouldn't have to. But managers need enough understanding to recognize when an issue is bigger than a routine management decision and when it's time to involve HR or legal support. If you're a manager, this is about helping you lead with confidence, not fear, and giving you the tools to manage people effectively without accidentally creating legal problems for you or the company. The Americans with Disabilities Act, passed in 1990, was designed with a simple goal: help people with limitations stay productive at work. Today, disability isn't just wheelchairs, visible impairments, and other obvious limitations. It includes such medical conditions as anxiety, depression, PTSD, diabetes, cancer, autoimmune conditions, ADHD, and many other conditions that may not be immediately apparent. And here's the most important mindset shift in ADA law. The focus is not on the disability, it's on the limitation and whether it can be reasonably accommodated. Managers get into trouble when they argue definitions. Is that really a disability? That doesn't sound serious. Other people don't get this. Legally, those arguments go nowhere. Once a potential disability or limitation is raised, your obligations begin. The ADA requires something called the interactive process or dialogue. This is when a manager meets with the employee to have a dialogue to see how the limitations caused by the disability can be accommodated. This means you talk, the employee talks, and you explore solutions together. That interactive process may require more than one meeting. Here's what it looks like in practice. The employee says, "I'm having migraines that make early mornings difficult." Your role is not to decide immediately whether that's valid. Your role is to ask, what limitations are you experiencing? How does it affect your job? And what accommodations might help? And then, this is crucial, you bring in HR. Managers get into serious trouble when they try to solve ADA issues alone. Let's look at another workplace example. An employee asks to work remotely 2 days a week due to anxiety and concentration issues. The manager thinks, this job was never remote before. But the question isn't about tradition. The question is, can the essential functions of the job still be performed? Does this pose a safety risk? And is it undue hardship? If the answer is a clear no, the accommodation deserves consideration. Dismissing it out of hand is how managers lose ADA cases. This is probably a good place to talk about undue hardship. Undue hardship means that an accommodation would require significant difficulty or expense in light of the employer's circumstances. It is not an inconvenience, a preference for doing things the old way, a concern that other employees might ask for the same thing, or a minor cost or disruption. The standard for undue hardship is intentionally high. When evaluating undue hardship, management must consider all of the following: the cost of the accommodation, absolute cost and cost relative to the employee's resources. So the larger the company, the tougher it is to reach the undue hardship standard. Overall financial resources. This takes into account size of the company, employee revenue, and number of employees. How the accommodation impacts workflow, safety, or operations. Whether it fundamentally alters the job that is performed, and on and on. How hard is it to prove undue hardship for larger businesses? The short answer is very hard. Longer answer, the larger and better resource the organization, the higher the bar to prove undue hardship. Cost arguments rarely succeed unless the accommodation is extraordinarily expensive. Courts expect flexibility, creativity, and problem solving. And we've never done it this way is not persuasive. In practice, a few $1,000s is almost never undue hardship. Even recurring costs may not qualify if they are modest relative to the overall resources of the business. Larger employers are expected to absorb costs that would otherwise overwhelm small businesses. And here's something managers often miss. Trying an accommodation, even temporarily, goes a long way legally. Courts look favorably on effort. They look poorly on refusal. Let's talk about the fastest way to create ADA liability. Dismissing requests as inconvenient, delaying endlessly without explanation, demanding unnecessary medical details, assuming accommodation won't work, and retaliating after a request is made. And one more big thing. Don't treat employees differently simply because they asked for an accommodation. Retaliation claims often follow failed ADA conversations. One area of frequent confusion is that the ADA does not protect employees currently engaged in illegal drug use. However, people with past addiction or those mistakenly perceived as addicts are protected. Alcoholism may be considered a disability, but employers may still enforce workplace conduct and performance standards. Prescription medication can complicate things. This is another moment where managers should stop guessing and start partnering with HR. Your job under the ADA is not to diagnose and is not to debate. It's to recognize a potential issue, engage respectfully, document the process, and involve HR early. Here's the core lesson of this episode. Most ADA claims don't come from bad intentions, they come from impatience, assumptions, and silence. If an employee raises a limitation, the law expects one thing from you. Try. Try to understand, try to accommodate, and try to document. Those efforts matter. In the next episode, we'll cover something managers dread even more: leaves, harassment, and retaliation. These are the 3 fastest ways to end a management career, because what you do after a complaint is often more important than the complaint itself.
John Paul here. If you like this video, check out the HR Insight YouTube channel where we have more videos just like this. Make sure to click subscribe so you get notifications.